Would you be the jerk for telling your sister to get out of your house? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for telling my sister that she's ruining her child's life with an iPad? My sister, 36-year-old female, and her husband have a 10-year-old kid, who for the purposes of this post is called Jimothy, whom me and my husband sometimes babysit on the weekends, and on some days I take him to school. As of about a year ago, we started to notice that Jimothy was beginning to develop an American accent. We are Australian. Small kids have phases, and so I didn't want to make it a thing. Over the next few months, the accent got thicker and Jimothy became more irritable. Me and my husband brought this up with my sister, who said that Jimothy wasn't very grumpy when with her. He then started losing interest in almost all activities that he used to enjoy. Again, this was a concern for me. Every weekend it got worse. He would complain of being bored, but when we offered an exhaustive list of all the things we could do with him, he said no to every single one. The school year for 2024 started, and on the weekend after that, Jimothy told us that his teacher and a few classmates had asked him how long he'd been in the US before moving to Australia. At this point, his American accent was indistinguishable from a general American accent. My husband and I were really wondering what was happening. Then, it was Jimothy's birthday party. His family was invited, including me, and so were all of his friends. This was the moment that made me realize to some extent what was going on. He was on an iPad scrolling some kind of short-form content that I did not recognize. His friends wanted to play with him, and he just did not notice they were there. People were giving him presents, and he acted like he was inconvenienced for having to turn the iPad off. Never before had any of my nieces or nephews reacted like this upon me giving them money and delicious treats. I told my sister that something was going on, and that Jimothy is obviously not in a good way. She seemed very offended that I was questioning her parenting choices, as she put it, and she decided that me and my husband babysitting Jimothy had to stop. The next time I saw Jimothy was very recently at my niece's birthday party, different parents. Jimothy was completely glued to the iPad. He was noticeably skinnier, which I suspect was because he was forgetting to eat in favor of iPad time. And when anyone went over to talk to him, he would almost instinctively push the screen towards his body so nobody could see. I had to talk to my sister and her husband. I told them what I thought, that a year ago, Jimothy was an energetic child who got along really well with everyone, and now he's reclusive, and it's obvious from just looking at him that he's skipping meals. My sister denied any changes in Jimothy's behavior, but her husband did admit that I was right to some extent, and Jimothy's friends had stopped trying to hang out with him because he said no 100% of the time. I told my sister she was wrecking Jimothy's life by continuing to let this iPad stuff happen. She started shouting at me, and I walked out of the party. Personally, I really don't think OP's the jerk here. Just from what OP described and said, would it be crazy or out of pocket for me to suggest this kid seems almost on his way to being developmentally slowed by the fact that they're so reliant and just focused on the iPad? I mean, if anything, even just socially. I mean, at what point does this just kind of go from allowing your kid to be a little too iPad obsessed or reliant to straight up like an abusive neglect situation? I mean, noticeably skinnier too? Sweet Blue Haven commented, "Not the jerk. The kid is obviously deteriorating. I wouldn't be surprised for him to grow up with depression and anxiety when dealing with social interactions at school and at work. It's good that you and your husband care about Jimothy. At the end of the day, you try to help out, so let them handle the upcoming issues that will surely arise in the future. Though the accent is actually a weird thing to point out, it's not really an issue here." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, am I the jerk for letting my daughter eat whatever she wants? I, 45-year-old female, have a 15-year-old female daughter. She is extremely active on her school's dance team. They have practices 8 hours a week, and according to her Fitbit, she gets 100+ active minutes a day on average. Because of this, I basically let her eat whatever she wants, packs her own lunches, buys school lunch, eats whatever snacks she wants, eat or not eat the family dinner, all her choice. Because of the long practices, she usually eats a normal-sized lunch, a large snack, and a large dinner every day. However, my husband, her stepfather, has told me that I need to be enforcing healthier eating habits because she's getting chubby. She's always been on the curvier side, but she's a size medium or a size 8 in most clothing items. She's 5'4" and 150 pounds. He told me that she's going to end up obese if I don't fix it now, and that's probably the cause of her knee problems. She's hypermobile in her knees, so they'll randomly buckle backwards and get a mild sprain. I've ignored his concern on the matter because I believe that my daughter is fine the way she is. And no doctor has brought up needing to lose weight, and that the knee problems are just an unfortunate genetic component. Both me and her father have similar issues. Does this make me the jerk? I wouldn't say OP's necessarily the jerk. I don't think there's anything morally wrong or abusive going on here. I would say there is some small truth to what the stepfather is arguing here. I think if you can help it, raising your kids to have a very healthy mindset as far as what normal eating habits are would be good. And by that I just mean something a little bit more structured throughout your day rather than just kind of figuring it out on a day-to-day basis. I think one of my biggest issues when it comes to food is I never had like a normal structure. Once I hit like around 14, there was a long period of time where it was almost just kind of left up to me to figure out what I had eaten in the day. I'm not saying control what your kid puts in their face, but helping them learn and get into a good daily routine for what makes a good complete day and isn't overkill is not a bad thing for sure. Jeepers Creepers 74 commented, "Not the jerk, but hear me out. I'm a body positive fatty on a weight loss journey and close to your daughter's height. I've spent my whole life throwing eye daggers at anyone who criticized kids' eating habits or weight because I felt this happened to me as a kid and was not helpful and even did more damage than good. I stand by that opinion, as well as your daughter's right, as a 15-year-old, to decide what's best for her to eat without having it policed, much less enforced as your husband suggests. That said, the more work I do on my own health, the more I realize it's not a crime for a parent to want their kid to make healthy choices in all aspects of their lives, including their relationship with food. Thus, I think your husband is being a jerk for focusing on the getting chubby, fix it now, and perhaps overstepping as a parent, but I don't think he's wrong for suggesting she may be forming bad habits, and you have an opportunity to help her replace them with better ones. 150 is technically overweight for your daughter's height. I know this because I initially set it as my goal weight, and my doctor was like, "Try again, shorty." Although I know there are more factors than height and weight that go into what is healthy. If you're responsible for providing the large snack and the large dinner, perhaps you can replace them with a normal snack and a normal dinner. Or keep them large in volume but lean a little heavier on veggies and protein. And this can't be something that's just for your daughter and not the rest of the family. It's a good time to get everyone to commit to eating a little better, including stepdad. OP responded saying she can decide however much she eats. And after a 3-hour practice where she burned over 2,000 calories, she absolutely should not be eating the same portion sizes as a sedentary person. She doesn't eat breakfast either, so the large snack is really just making up calories. She's in high school and is in charge of most of her meals. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my mom that she got what she had coming to her after grandma had her banned from the retirement community she lives at? My mom went behind my grandma's back several months ago and tracked down my grandma's half-sister to try and force a reconciliation between them despite knowing grandma did not want to and didn't claim her half-sister as a real sibling. Grandma was furious. She told my mom that the half-sister is just some tramp's child and not her real sibling, and her chance to have siblings died with her mom. After my great-grandma died, great-grandpa remarried someone who had a very extensive reputation for going after married and widowed men. My grandma thought the woman was disgusting. It wasn't helped by the fact that great-grandpa's new wife was also the other woman to one of the parents of grandma's friends. So the hatred already existed. They went on to have a daughter together, who grandma never looked at as anything other than the woman's daughter. She saw her dad as a traitor and disgusting for going after someone like his wife, so she never formed any connection with her, and she moved out at like 16 in order to get out from under them. Great-grandpa's wife's reputation proved to be more than true because even while married to great-grandpa, there were more and more married or widowed men who were going in and out of the house. At some point several years after grandma moved out, her half-sister reached out and asked if she would take her because she wasn't happy at home, and grandma said no. That was the last time they spoke. My mom and her siblings grew up knowing grandma had a half-sister she wanted nothing to do with. But sometime during her life, mom decided she could be the one to change grandma's mind, and she waited until grandma was older and grandpa was gone, and she's been living alone for 2 years now in the retirement community. and she tracked down the half-sister, got that woman's hopes up because she always hoped to have a relationship with my grandma, and then showed up at grandma's house with the half-sister. It didn't go well. The half-sister left heartbroken, and my grandma tore my mom a new one. I have never seen my grandma actually angry before. She called my mom a bratty little know-it-all who thought she could ignore people's wishes and boundaries, and she told mom that she couldn't look at her. Mom argued back that grandma has a sister and she should know her before it's too late. Grandma sent me to the store to grab some snacks, and by the time I got back, grandma told mom she was not welcome back there again. Mom thought grandma would calm down, but she learned a couple of weeks later, when she tried to visit, that she was banned from the community. My mom was horrified. She wouldn't stop talking about it at home, and I told her she got what was coming to her with what she did. I told her if I did something like that, she would ground my butt so fast. But just because she's an adult, she thought she could do it? Mom told me I shouldn't stick my nose into her business and that I have zero right to judge her. Am I the jerk? Opie's clearly not the jerk here. I think the mom's just upset that everything worked out the way it did. She disrespected her mom's wishes. She knew throughout her entire life her mom's very specific stance about their half-sibling. If OP's mom truly genuinely cared about their mom's feelings and opinion on the matter, they would have reached out and tried to convince them first before going behind their back and just trying to do this surprise, she's here, let's have our family intervention. Samus Cabrona commented, not the jerk. Your mom didn't respect her mother's wishes or boundaries. She traumatized both of those women. For what? This next story is, am I the jerk for not letting my friend use my apartment as a crash pad whenever she's in town? I, 25-year-old female, live in a major city where a lot of my friends from college often visit for work or vacations. One of my close friends, Emily, 26-year-old female, lives in a different state but frequently travels to my city for business. Whenever she's here, she asks to stay at my apartment, and for the most part, I've been happy to let her crash with me to save on hotel costs. However, lately it's become a bit overwhelming. Emily visits at least once a month, and she usually stays for 4 to 5 days at a time. When she's here, she treats my place like a hotel. She comes and goes as she pleases, doesn't really help with cleaning up, and expects me to be around to hang out when she's free, even though I have my own life and responsibilities. Last month, I gently told Emily that while I love seeing her, I need some more space, and suggested that she consider staying at a hotel or splitting her visits between my place and other friends. She didn't take it well. She accused me of not being a good friend and said that since I live alone and have the space, it shouldn't be a big deal to let her stay. I try to explain that it's not about space, but about feeling like my home isn't my own when she's here so often. Now she's barely speaking to me, and some mutual friends think I'm being unreasonable for not wanting to help her out. I really don't think OP's the jerk here, and all of these friends that say, oh, OP, you're being unreasonable for not wanting to help her out, are they opening their doors? I bet they're the first ones to offer up some flimsy excuse. Sorry, I've got to go get my dog's oil changed tomorrow. I just hear so many similar situations like where somebody doesn't want to take a family member in, and then all of a sudden the rest of the family's like, how freaking dare you? But none of them are opening their doors or trying to make it work. They love to pass the buck and the blame to somebody else. Black Flash 3003 commented, not the jerk. You don't owe her free accommodation when she feels like popping by. 4 to 5 days a month is a lot to have someone over that doesn't do anything around the house. I get wanting to stay with you, but she should pull the weight around the house, cook you dinner as a sign of appreciation, clean up after herself. You did the right thing, and honestly, you could have done this sooner. Our next story is, am I the jerk for standing up at a concert? Hey y'all, I, 27-year-old male, went to a concert this evening with my 21-year-old female partner. I've been super excited for this concert since getting tickets back in October 2023. I got tickets in the 3rd level, front row, and right of the stage. I love bouncing around and drumming to the beat, great seats for that. Band comes out, starts playing the first song, my partner and I stand up, bobbing around, and this woman to my right goes, sit down, I can't see, you're blocking my view. I ignore her and she becomes more vocal along with the people behind us. Based on earlier conversations, I believe they're together. I yell out that there's people standing all over the arena and if they can't see, they can stand up. The guy next to her gets an usher who tells us we need to sit down because we're blocking people's views. First song hasn't even finished at this point. I yell, it's loud, I have to yell, that there's people everywhere standing, and she doubles down saying we need to sit. I ask, is this for the entire show? And the usher walks away. Show continues, I'm upset and my partner says to enjoy the concert. I lean my arm against the railing and continue to sing along. The same woman starts pushing me and says, your arm is blocking my view, I can't see. I didn't check from her angle, but at most my arm is blocking the edge of the side of the stage. She starts calling me a jerk, an a-hole, a Richard because she can't see with my arm in the way. I eventually move my arm. 10 songs or so later, I put my arm up again, lightly tapping to the beat. She again starts shoving me, throwing vulgarities around and starts chanting freak you, freak you, freak you into my ear. My partner notices around this time and is like, what's your deal? And the woman accuses me of manspreading and blocking her view. We could have gone to the usher and told her about this at this point, but worry that this woman is going to become more aggressive if we do anything. During the last 4 to 5 songs of the show, some people in our section behind us are standing. No warning from the ushers though. The show wraps up and I go to the usher to ask where I can talk to a manager because I've been to many concerts and never been told I can't stand. The usher says, well, I didn't tell you that you couldn't stand up, just not for the entire show. She made us sit halfway through the first song. I tell her about the woman and she more or less scolds me that I should have come to her and she would have had a stern talking to her about that kind of behavior as it isn't tolerated. Bless my partner who went to guest services to vouchers for us. The manager's upset because there's no policy about having to sit during the show. She was super helpful and apologetic about the experience we had. Am I the jerk for wanting to stand at one of my favorite band's concert? Edit, concert was Blink-182 in an arena with stadium seating. Cut out a few things to keep it within the limit. You know what, I just mentioned this the other day while reading some other Reddit stories. The great debate about when you buy tickets to a show and it's a seating ticket, whether or not it's okay for you to stand up. Should it only be like situational, like specifically if the band says stand up or something like that? It's so conflicting for me because I completely understand why people would want to stand up, kind of dance around a little bit in their seat. But even more so understandable is there's probably going to be a good handful of people that don't want to or even can't stand for a long period of time. And if you're one of those people, you obviously don't want to be stuck behind somebody that you can't even see the show because they're standing the whole time. This one has me really conflicted, but if I personally had to say whether or not OP is or isn't the jerk, I'm gonna lean slightly towards is the jerk. Now, I think the arm thing was pretty ridiculous. But if you're in a seated section and you're in the front row and somebody says, can you sit down? You're literally blocking my view of the show. I get it. It sucks. You want to stand up and dance around, but you would be blocking somebody's view. At that point, it becomes, is standing up and dancing around more important to you than utterly crapping on somebody else's seating arrangement right behind you? Swimming Possible 68 commented, you're the jerk. I'm sorry, but if you've got seated tickets, you should expect there may be a problem if you stand. If you want to stand, get tickets in the standing section, or right at the back. Believe it or not everyone can stand for extended periods of time. There is a possibility the person behind you didn't even have the option of standing. Also, as a short person, if the person in front is super tall and stands, it doesn't matter if I stand or not, I ain't seeing past them. This next story is, am I the jerk for not considering my friend's celiac disease when baking? So me and my friends had a dinner party, and as per usual, the people who are not hosting bring drinks and dessert, and I brought a dessert. I decided to bake an apple pie because everyone liked them and mine are quite good. One of the people attending has celiac disease, but I chose to make the pie normally because it was double the work to have to thoroughly clean everything once or twice. The ingredients with no lactose and gluten were a lot more expensive, and the dough would not come out well or as tasty if I used a bunch of replacements. Baking is very ingredient sensitive. Be that as it may, when I arrived, I explicitly told her that the pie was not made in any special way, so I advised her not to eat it. She made a big deal out of it, called me an idiot, and said that I could have at least made the effort, but I don't see why I had to, since it wasn't even her dinner party. So, am I the jerk? I feel like the reaction here is probably going to vary. There's probably going to be a subsection of people that say you didn't have to go out of your way to do that. There might be a subsection of people that say you are the jerk for at least not making some kind of effort or pivoting to something that would be acceptable when you know that they're going to be there. Could OP have made more of an effort? Sure. But OP did go out of their way to at least say, hey, just a heads up, I wasn't able to make this pie gluten or lactose free, so just a heads up, don't eat that. At least there was that level of consideration. And I guess you could take an even greater step back and say, when you were told to bring food to this party, did anybody ever actually describe any kind of limitation? Was there like a, hey, X is coming, so try to bring anything that's lactose or gluten free? Or would it have been implied that if Joe Schmo showed up with pigs in a blanket, it would have been completely fine? Free Science 1091 commented, everybody sucks here. My husband is gluten-free due to celiac and he doesn't want people to go out of their way for him. That being said, when we've done potluck dinners, people have at least made an effort to include him, such as made a pie, but brought him a small container of a store-bought gluten-free dessert such as cookies. It sounds like you spent so much time explaining why you couldn't make something gluten-free that you didn't consider what you could do. Also, when I make gluten-free and non-gluten-free, I just make the gluten-free item first because then it just takes a quick rinse to clean for the version with gluten. Highly Improbable 42 added, agree completely. I have close friends/family with food sensitivities. Baking with alternate ingredients is definitely more expensive and requires more experience to make it equal in taste or texture. So I just order a gluten-free or vegan item to have a proper dessert that everyone can enjoy, plus a non-food sensitive item if I choose to make one. It's not hard to be considerate of people you care about. OP is the jerk for making a point to exclude a friend. From the way OP writes and from how they wrote about the friend in general, I wonder if OP is usually the jerk and if the friend was just done with it, leaning towards you're the jerk. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my best friend to leave our apartment when she brought her baby daddy without my knowledge? So my, female 20, best friend, female 22, moved in with me recently because she broke up with her baby daddy, and she needed some time to get back on her feet. I told her she can move in with me if she pays half the rent. She has twins about a year and a half old. I do not get along with her ex at all. He cheated on her multiple times, has no sense of fatherhood, hasn't been there or contributed at all in the twins' lives, tried to cheat on her with me, and tried to fight my boyfriend when I rejected him for obvious reasons. Basically, my only rule is that the baby daddy is not to be in the apartment because I don't trust him. He's also known for stealing. I left with my mother today around 10 a.m. to help clean her house and told my friend I wouldn't be back until the evening. My mom got tired doing yard work around 1:30 p.m. and she said to call it a day and she took me home early. I come home to see her baby daddy on the couch. My friend comes running out begging for forgiveness that it's just for a little bit, that he just wants to see the babies. He wants to try to work things out. I was like, cool, get out. Go to a hotel or something. You know the rules. I'm going to the bank. If he's still here when I come back, you can pack your things too because I'm over it. She cried really hard to forgive her. She's just in a bad spot and doesn't know what to do. I told her I don't mind what her decisions are, but I don't want him in the apartment. It was my only rule. You didn't even try asking me. I went to the bank and they left before I got back. I feel bad for making her cry. Maybe I should have been more calm? I didn't yell or anything, I was just really annoyed. Think stern. I still am. Am I the jerk for how I went about it? If any extra context is needed, I will happily share. I think OP's definitely not the jerk here. I think OP was very understanding, pretty level-headed in this situation, considering this was clearly something they did not want happen, and the fact that OP said, I'm gonna head back out, him or you both, whichever, be gone. I think that's a lot of trust OP put back into somebody that just clearly violated it. Life Learn Love commented, you offered to help her out on one condition. Baby daddy was never to be at your apartment. You never set expectations of her not seeing him or even getting back together, just that he was never to come to your apartment. Not the jerk, and good on you for standing your ground. If she can't respect your rules for your home, you can bet that he won't either. Our next story is, am I the jerk for asking an old woman not to pick our lavender as she walks past our house? There's an old woman that walks by our house with her grandchildren. We don't have a fence between our plants and the pedestrian path. This woman picks our lavender and then encourages her grandchildren to pick the lavender too. I had enough today and I went out and said in a calm tone of voice, sorry, would you mind not pulling our lavender out? She then said, are you serious? It doesn't harm the plant. I replied, that's all well and good, but, well, it's just disrespectful as it's our property. She then said, well, I have some advice for you. If you had cut it back last year, it would have grown better. You haven't done that and it hasn't grown well at all," and then made a cheeky smirk and walked on. I was sort of flummoxed at that reply and closed the door. I have social anxiety and don't like confrontation. I wish I said more. Makes me so angry that she feels she had the right to do that. She may be in the right that it doesn't harm the plant, but it's just the principle of it. And I can't get over her rude reply about how we aren't growing it correctly. Can hardly focus on my work. I'm just pacing about with irritation. I'm easily in the camp of OP not being the jerk. Sadly, with this entitled lady, I feel like you're gonna be very hard-pressed to keep her from picking those plants. I just don't know any good, realistic way to enforce that. I mean, you can capture it on camera, you can call the non-emergency line, but at the end of the day, they're probably going to say, does it harm the plant? Is it causing you any real property or financial damage? Is it causing you real emotional stress? I mean, I feel like a cop is unfortunately more likely to try to laugh at you than try to help you out if you say, "This lady walking by my house is picking my lavender." Clearly not the jerk, but without offense, I don't know what you can do. Wasteland Mama commented, "Not the jerk. My grandma had a yard full of beautiful plants. She had my granddad specifically choose a corner lot for the extra yard space. Loads of her plants were nearly 100 years old, passed down from her mother. Every dang year, she would get people trying to poach her lilacs or tea roses or irises. She also had a pawpaw in the side yard that she was more than happy to share the fruit of. It's good for about 5 minutes before it starts to rot, so when it comes in, you gotta harvest the whole tree and eat it fast. But she was not happy to go out there and find it picked bare without her permission. She tried signs, she tried talking, it never worked. So she finally gave up and just started hosing people down. She would blast them with the hose, and when they would freak out, she would just spray them again. She said some people are just too thoughtless and rude to reason with, so you treat them like the pests they are. The next year, her yard went untouched. Imagine that. Our next story is, am I the jerk? Today I told my sister to get out of my house. My sister has been living with us for the past 4 years, on and off paying some towards bills. When she can't afford, I ask she helps around the house. I've paid her phone bill the last 2 years. I'm also the only one putting money towards groceries. The past several months, she hasn't paid anything towards bills, claiming she's worrying about herself, not that she can't afford it, but now she refuses to help out around the house when I ask small tasks like, when you're home, can you let my dogs out once or twice when I'm not? And can you take the trash out when you see it's full? Nothing too crazy. Today, I went to check on my dogs via my pet camera and overheard her calling myself a whole bunch of hateful names on the phone with someone. It really hurt my feelings because since she was 18, I've been the only family member willing to help her out. Our mother didn't want her after she turned 18. I lost my temper and told her I've tried so hard to make sure she has a roof above her head, even giving her one of our cars so she has a vehicle. To which she responded, "You've never taken care of me. I've been the only one taking care of myself." In the heat of things, I told her, "Fine, then pack your stuff and get out of my home. Since I don't do anything for you, then you can figure out life without me." Now I feel like I might be the jerk. So, am I the jerk? I think it's a very painful situation, it's a very stressful situation, but I don't think what OP did makes them the jerk, especially with what they've put up with and how they've honestly been treated despite the way they treated them. If they can't be the least bit appreciative of all that OP's done for them, I think it's time for them to fly the coop. Peony Pony commented, "Not the jerk. Your sister is 22 years old and she needs to grow up sometime. She's been freeloading off you for 4 years. She can't live her life like a perpetual teenager forever. It's time for her to put whatever life skills she has to the test, or learn some quickly, especially if she thinks to disparage someone who has provided for her for 4 years. Actions have consequences." This next story is, am I the jerk for telling my mom that being surrounded by her husband's huge butt family for 2 weeks sounds like heck? My mom and Harry have been married for 3 years. They have 2 under 2 together, and then there's me, 17-year-old male, who isn't Harry's kid. Harry comes from a huge family. His parents are still alive, he has 5 siblings, they have something like 16 kids between them and then spouses, and all of them are coming to stay at our house for 2 weeks starting Sunday. I found this out Sunday night. Harry said some of his relatives are bringing tents and others are bringing camp beds so they can all fit, but they'll be here for 2 whole weeks and a bunch of them are also going to be sleeping inside. Harry is so excited and my mom is all hyped up for it too. She isn't close to her family, so she's looking forward to having family around. I personally can't wait for them to be gone. I hardly know any of them, and even though they are technically family by marriage now, I don't know that I'll ever consider them my family. My mom pulled me aside yesterday and told me I'm not acting excited and she can't understand why because she thought I'd want to get to know my extended family. I told her that's a lot of people I don't know or care about coming to stay and it's not going to be comfortable. I said a day would be a lot, but 2 weeks sounds like heck to be stuck with Harry's huge butt family. My mom started whisper scolding me, saying they're our family too and how she expected me to be more eager to have them here. I told her I'd prefer to stay with a friend for the 2 weeks. I said they'd even have an extra room to use for everyone. My mom said that was such a negative attitude to have. She told me I'll finally have grandparents, aunts and uncles, some cousins even. Don't I want that? I told her I would much rather be comfortable in my friend's home. Then last night, Mom told me the way I talked about our family wasn't okay and that if I really want to go to my friend's house, and if his parents are cool with it, I could. But she will be disappointed and she will still expect me to change my attitude. I was like, thank you, but Mom told me the way I described being around Harry's family as heck is not okay. Am I the jerk? I just gotta go at this from a personal perspective, and if that were me, I would be absolutely dreading it. This entire thing sounds like a nightmare to me, so I really don't think OP's the jerk. And I think there's a lot of truth to the fact that OP's 17 years old. They were what, 14 when Harry came into their life? It's pretty normal in those circumstances for somebody to not consider somebody like Harry actually family. So for them to say, oh, come on, this is all your relatives coming over. I mean, no, it's not. It's an entire circus of people OP's never met in their life, is not actually related to, and I think it would be completely understandable if they don't really have any interest in even knowing them. Chilling Storm commented, I can see and understand both sides of this, not the jerk. 2 weeks is a long time for any house guests. OP, keep that in mind with you staying at a friend's. Your mom wants to have more family and sees this as a good opportunity for her and for you. Having more people care about you is a good thing. Perhaps you can split the difference and give Harry's family a chance. Maybe stay for a few days, then leave for a few and then come back. Get involved in some of the activities and try to have fun. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.